In the ensuing months, Sarah and Mark embarked on the arduous journey of rebuilding their relationship. They sought the guidance of a marriage counselor, committing to weekly sessions where they confronted the pain and betrayal head-on. These meetings provided a structured environment to express their emotions, fostering a space for vulnerability and honesty. Sarah grappled with the duality of her own infidelity and the hurt inflicted by Mark's actions. The counseling sessions unearthed deep-seated issues in their marriage, including unmet needs and lapses in communication that had paved the way for their respective indiscretions. Acknowledging these shortcomings was a bitter pill to swallow, but it was a necessary step toward healing. Mark, on his part, confronted his feelings of guilt and remorse. He recognized the gravity of his betrayal and its impact on Sarah's trust. Through therapy, he learned to take responsibility for his actions without deflecting blame, understanding that genuine remorse was crucial for any chance of reconciliation. The process was neither linear nor devoid of setbacks. There were moments when old wounds resurfaced, triggering arguments and doubts about their future together. However, each confrontation also served as an opportunity to reinforce their commitment to healing. They established new patterns of communication, prioritizing transparency and actively listening to each other's concerns. Outside of therapy, Sarah and Mark made concerted efforts to reconnect. They revisited activities they once enjoyed together, such as hiking and cooking, rediscovering shared passions that had been overshadowed by the turmoil. These moments of togetherness acted as reminders of the bond that had initially drawn them to one another. Trust, however, remained a fragile entity. Sarah struggled with lingering suspicions, finding it challenging to fully believe in Mark's fidelity. Similarly, Mark harbored insecurities about Sarah's commitment. They addressed these issues candidly in their sessions, understanding that rebuilding trust required time, consistency, and patience. As months turned into a year, subtle shifts became evident. The intensity of their pain began to wane, replaced by a cautious optimism. They celebrated small victories, such as navigating a disagreement without reverting to past grievances or sharing a genuine moment of laughter. These instances, though seemingly minor, signified progress in their healing journey. Sarah and Mark also redefined their individual identities within the marriage. They pursued personal interests and friendships outside their relationship, recognizing that a healthy partnership thrives when both individuals maintain a sense of self. This balance alleviated the pressure on their marriage to fulfill all emotional needs, fostering a more sustainable dynamic. Reflecting on their journey, Sarah acknowledged the profound transformation they had undergone. The infidelity had shattered their previous notions of love and commitment, but it also compelled them to rebuild on a foundation of authenticity and resilience. They learned that forgiveness was not a singular event but an ongoing process, requiring continuous effort and empathy. Mark expressed gratitude for the second chance they had afforded each other. He recognized that while the scars of their past would never fully fade, they served as testament to their capacity for growth and renewal. Their marriage, once teetering on the brink of dissolution, emerged stronger, fortified by the trials they had endured together. In the end, Sarah and Mark's story was not defined by the infidelity that had threatened to destroy them, but by their unwavering determination to heal and rebuild. Their journey underscored the complexities of human relationships and the profound resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. One evening, as Sarah prepared dinner, Mark's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Glancing at the screen, she noticed a message preview from an unfamiliar number. "Looking forward to seeing you tonight." A chill ran down her spine. Feigning composure, she handed the phone to Mark, who quickly dismissed the message as a work-related text. Doubt gnawed at Sarah, but she chose to suppress her suspicions, attributing them to her own guilty conscience. Days later, while tidying up their bedroom, Sarah stumbled upon a receipt tucked away in Mark's jacket pocket. It was from an upscale restaurant they hadn't visited together in months, dated just 2 nights prior, the same evening Mark had claimed to be working late. Her heart pounded as she pieced together the inconsistencies. Confrontation seemed inevitable, but fear of the truth paralyzed her. Unable to bear the mounting tension, Sarah confided in her close friend, Emily. Over coffee, she recounted the suspicious messages and the hidden receipt. Emily listened intently, her brow furrowing with concern. "You need to talk to him, Sarah," she urged gently. "Living in uncertainty is its own kind of torture." That evening, Sarah mustered the courage to confront Mark. As they sat across from each other at the dinner table, she took a deep breath. "Mark, I found a receipt from La Belle Vie in your jacket. You said you were working late that night." Her voice trembled, betraying her attempt at calm. Mark's face paled, his fork clattering onto his plate. He opened his mouth to speak but hesitated, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavily between them. Finally he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Sarah, there's something I need to tell you." The revelation came tumbling out, a confession of an affair that had begun months ago with a colleague. Mark spoke of feeling neglected, of seeking solace in someone who seemed to understand his frustrations. Each word cut through Sarah, leaving her breathless and numb. Tears streamed down her face as she listened, a maelstrom of emotions swirling within her. Anger, betrayal, sorrow. "How could you?" she whispered, her voice cracking. "After everything we've built together." Mark reached out, but Sarah recoiled, the chasm between them widening. "I never meant to hurt you," he pleaded, desperation tinging his voice. "It just happened." The days that followed were a blur of anguish and reflection. Sarah vacillated between confronting Mark and retreating into herself, grappling with the enormity of his betrayal. She sought solace in long drives, the open road offering a temporary escape from the suffocating reality of her fractured marriage. One afternoon, as she sat parked by the lake where they had shared countless memories, her phone buzzed with a message from Emily. "Thinking of you. Here if you need to talk." The simple words brought a fresh wave of tears, a reminder of the support she still had amidst the chaos. Returning home that evening, Sarah found Mark sitting on the porch, his eyes red-rimmed and weary. He looked up as she approached, a glimmer of hope in his gaze. "I want to make this right, Sarah," he murmured. "I know I've broken your trust, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this." Sarah stood silently, the weight of his words pressing down on her. The road to healing seemed insurmountable, littered with shards of broken promises and shattered dreams. Yet, beneath the layers of hurt, a flicker of the love they once shared remained, fragile but persistent. "It's not going to be easy," she replied softly, her voice tinged with both pain and resolve. "But if we're going to try, we need to be honest, with each other and ourselves." Mark nodded, a tear slipping down his cheek. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. I love you." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting hues of orange and pink across the sky, they sat together in silence, the first tentative steps toward confronting the fractures in their relationship and the possibility of rebuilding what had been broken. As Sarah's affair with Alex deepened, the complexities of leading a double life began to take their toll. Their secret rendezvous became more frequent, each encounter intensifying the bond between them. To maintain the facade of normalcy at home, Sarah resorted to increasingly elaborate lies. She fabricated work commitments and invented social engagements, each deception adding to the intricate web she was weaving. The thrill of the affair was now accompanied by a growing sense of paranoia, as the fear of discovery loomed ever larger. At home, Mark couldn't ignore the subtle but undeniable changes in Sarah's behavior. She seemed distant, often lost in thought, and her once engaging presence had diminished. Attempts to connect were met with vague responses or dismissive gestures, leaving Mark feeling increasingly isolated. He noticed her increased secrecy with her phone, a device that had previously been a shared space now guarded closely. Late-night messages and unexplained absences became more frequent, fueling his growing suspicion. The atmosphere in their home grew tense. Conversations that once flowed easily were now strained, filled with unspoken doubts and unasked questions. Mark's attempts to bridge the gap were met with defensiveness, further widening the chasm between them. He grappled with feelings of inadequacy and confusion, questioning his own actions and worth. The foundation of trust that their marriage had been built upon was eroding, replaced by a pervasive sense of uncertainty. Sarah's internal turmoil was relentless. The initial excitement of the affair had given way to a constant state of anxiety. She was hypervigilant, scrutinizing her every move to avoid arousing suspicion. Sleep eluded her, as her mind raced with the potential consequences of her actions. The guilt was palpable, manifesting in physical symptoms that she struggled to conceal. Her work suffered, and her interactions with friends and family became strained, as the weight of her secret pressed down on every aspect of her life. The psychological toll was immense. Sarah experienced mood swings, oscillating between moments of euphoria when with Alex and deep despair when confronted with the reality of her choices. She became irritable, lashing out at minor inconveniences, a manifestation of the internal conflict raging within her. The joy she once found in her family and career was overshadowed by the all-consuming nature of the affair. She questioned her own morality, grappling with the dissonance between her actions and the values she once held dear. Mark, too, was ensnared in a web of emotional distress. His suspicion gnawed at him, leading to sleepless nights and a pervasive sense of dread. He became preoccupied with uncovering the truth, analyzing Sarah's behavior for any indication of infidelity. This obsession affected his performance at work and his interactions with their children, as his mind was constantly elsewhere. The lack of open communication created a breeding ground for mistrust, and he found himself questioning every aspect of their relationship. The once stable environment of their home was now fraught with tension. The children sensed the unease, their innocent inquiries met with forced smiles and hollow reassurances. Family gatherings, once filled with laughter, were now overshadowed by an unspoken discord. The ripple effects of Sarah's affair permeated every facet of their lives, creating an undercurrent of instability that threatened to upend the foundation of their family. As the affair progressed, the stakes continued to rise. Sarah's ability to compartmentalize her dual existence diminished, and the boundaries between her two worlds blurred. The fear of exposure was a constant companion, casting a shadow over even the most mundane activities. Each day presented new challenges in maintaining the deception, and the emotional and psychological burden became increasingly unbearable. The path she had chosen was fraught with peril, and the looming possibility of discovery threatened to unravel the delicate balance she struggled to maintain. In the quiet suburb of Maplewood, Sarah and Mark had built a life that many envied. Married for over a decade, they shared a comfortable home and were raising 2 children. Their routines were well established. Mornings filled with the hustle of getting the kids to school, days consumed by work, and evenings dedicated to family dinners and homework sessions. Yet, beneath this veneer of normalcy, Sarah felt an unsettling void growing within her. Sarah's career as a graphic designer had always been a source of pride and creativity. However, recent projects had become monotonous, and she yearned for inspiration. It was during this period of restlessness that a new client, Alex, entered her professional sphere. Alex was charismatic, with a passion for his work that was infectious. Their initial meetings were strictly professional, but an undeniable chemistry simmered beneath the surface. As weeks passed, Sarah found herself looking forward to their interactions more than she cared to admit. They began sharing personal stories, laughing over shared jokes, and exchanging glances that lingered a moment too long. Sarah's internal conflict grew. She loved Mark and their children, but the excitement she felt with Alex was a stark contrast to her predictable life at home. One evening, after a particularly engaging meeting that extended into dinner, Alex walked Sarah to her car. The night air was crisp, and the city lights cast a soft glow around them. They stood close, the space between them charged with unspoken words. Without thinking, Sarah closed the gap and kissed Alex. The kiss was brief but intense, leaving them both breathless. Pulling away, Sarah's mind raced with a mix of exhilaration and guilt. Driving home, Sarah replayed the moment in her mind. Her emotions a tumultuous blend of desire and remorse. She knew she had crossed a line, But a part of her didn't want to step back. The following days were a blur of stolen moments and secret messages. Sarah and Alex's connection deepened, and they found themselves entangled in an affair that was as thrilling as it was forbidden. At home, Sarah's demeanor began to shift. She was more distracted, her mind often drifting during conversations with Mark. She started working late more frequently, offering vague explanations that did little to alleviate Mark's growing suspicion. The once warm and open atmosphere of their home became tense, with unspoken doubts hanging in the air. Sarah's internal struggle intensified. She was caught between the comfort of her family life and the passionate escape Alex provided. The weight of her deceit bore heavily on her, yet the thought of ending the affair filled her with a profound sense of loss. Each day became a balancing act, as she tried to maintain the facade of a devoted wife and mother while indulging in a secret life that threatened to unravel everything she held dear. The initial thrill of the affair began to wane as the reality of her actions settled in. Sarah found herself constantly on edge, fearing that her secret would be discovered. The guilt gnawed at her, and she started to question whether the fleeting moments of passion were worth the risk of losing her family. Yet, despite the turmoil, she couldn't bring herself to end things with Alex, leaving her trapped in a web of her own making.